This week we'll be looking at an interesting idea, and that is how the North actually stacks up against the South. A couple of questions that come up is the North slowly but surely overtaking the South? With the recent victories of the North, is there anything that could be read into this? How long will this shake-up actually go on? And literally, what would be the best way to actually measure the strength of the North versus the South? For the question of whether or not the North is overtaking the South, you should just have a quick look at some of the results from the past weekend for a couple of shockers. If you have a look at those results, you'd think, oh my goodness, what is happening to New Zealand rugby? Because there were a couple of interesting results in Japan. The Chiefs lost against the Japanese side, but the more impressive one was the champions of the United Rugby Championships, Munster, playing against the champions of Super Rugby, the Crusaders, and in front of a crowd of 30,000 people, Munster were the victors, 21-19. If you had a look at that quickly, you'd just think, yeah, things are starting to be turned on its head completely. Now, people may ask, what, if anything, can be read into these victories? And yeah, quite a lot actually. There's been some interesting developments in rugby and on the club side over the past couple of years. Something that's become very evident is that the Northern Hemisphere teams, especially those from Ireland, from Scotland, England and France, are some of the most professional run teams around. Japan is quickly catching up to that as well, and they've got some monstrous rosters if you have a look at the players that they've got on their side, and they are exceptionally well organized. The Southern Hemisphere teams are ones that have relied on their traditional strengths. New Zealand has it almost feels like they've become a little bit complacent with the dominance that they've had over the past 2 decades. But this is something that you shouldn't take too seriously, these victories that or these losses that they had in the past few weeks, because they are quick to react and adapt to things like that. On the other hand, the South African teams have always relied on their monstrous players, and those monstrous players have seen them through some tough times, but they've always been lacking when it comes to great administration and coaching overall. This is something that has, however, steadily improved in no small measure as a result of some of the more experienced coaches that we've had over the years, with Dobson, with Gary Gold, with Jake White and Russia, of course, leading the charge. So the South African teams should be playing catch-up pretty well over the next couple of years as well. And they're starting to show that in some of the club champions or the club competitions as well. If you have a look at which country is the strongest in the north and which is the strongest in the south, in the north it's a toss-up between Ireland and France. But I'm just going to lean a little bit still in Ireland's favour. Not just because they thumped France over the past weekend, but if you have a look at their club sides, what they're able to achieve with just the 4 provinces that they have competing, and how impressive Leinster and Munster have been in particular, it is something to take note of. On the other side, the top 14 has got 14 teams run by very wealthy individuals, so they've got the budgets and everything in place to be at a whole different level. But there's something in how the teams get coached and managed in Ireland that allows those 4 provinces to really be top ones. At the moment, Connacht is a bit lagging overall, but at times they can produce something interesting as well. But at the top of that list, Leinster and Munster are definitely the dominant forces. In the south, I would lean towards the South African teams only because Super Rugby has been diluted. At the moment, the New Zealand teams are only being measured against sides from the islands and from Australia, and it's not at the level of competition that they used to get from South African teams. People may ask how long this shake-up will continue, and the way things are looking at the moment, I don't see anything changing in 2024, and probably not changing into 2025 either. I think there are going to be many ups, many downs, as a lot of the teams adapt to the new types of competitions that are being held around the globe. There are a lot of efforts that are going into incorporating the islanders, incorporating Japan a lot more, trying to find places where some of the South American teams, for example, can be incorporated. The large numbers of viewers in the Southern Hemisphere in South Africa are also trying to be appeased with an incorporation into European club competitions. And overall, this wonderful shake-up is something that is just going to be thrilling for all neutral rugby viewers the world over. If you love the game, you're going to enjoy a lot of the weird and wonderful results that you'll see this year and next year. One of the most difficult questions, however, is how can you accurately measure strength versus strength when you have a look at the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere, and including all of the teams around the globe. Now, there has been suggestions on an international level to include a lot of the teams globally, making sure that Romania and Chile and Portugal and Spain and Germany and US and Mexico and Brazil, all of those teams have to be part of the mix to make sure that they get enough playing time against top tier teams, and that is something that really needs to happen. However, I believe there should be a similar type of restructuring of competitions on the club side. It's a logistical nightmare, not going to argue with that, but I think it might be a good idea to have a look at incorporating teams from Europe, UK and Africa. Those are in a group, and then on the other side a group that consists of the Australian, New Zealand, Japanese and the Islander teams, as well as teams from North and South America. With those in groups, you can have two tiers, so you have a the West 1 and a the West 2 tier, with a promotion relegation battle between those, and then in the East you have a tier 1 and a tier 2 with a promotion relegation battle there as well. But at the end of every season you can have a competition between the best of the West and the best of the East in a tier 1 competition with quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals, and the same with the tier 2 in the West and the East in a quarterfinal, semi-final and final scenario. I just think that would bring a very interesting new dimension to club rugby globally, and it would really pique the interest of emerging markets in particular. If you see a lot more viewership coming from teams in the US, which is a massive market, from Canada, from Mexico, from Brazil, from Chile, from Uruguay, those are ones that are really going to excite people in those markets. And same if you get some of the amazing teams from Romania, some of the ones from Czech Republic, some of the ones from Portugal, Spain, a lot of those teams to actually compete. It would make for interesting viewing, and it would actually open up a lot more opportunities both for players and for fans around the world. And I think that might go a long way in developing the game globally.